Where's Johnny?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
It's so serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing the Gold. I'm Shadan Larkey.
Hi, I'm Erica Richards. Yes, we are here to talk about SAG.
Yes, we are here to talk about SAG and DGA nominations, both of which dropped yesterday, January 8th. Before we get started, I do want to touch on something. Erica, I know I feel like I can speak for you on this. Obviously, there's a lot of, horrible tragedies going on in Southern California with the fires. We're going to talk about that a little bit today, as a lot of the award season dates have shifted. But all of that to say, none of that pales in comparison to, people are losing their homes and the horrific things that are going on. So, I just want to put that out there that's really should be the focus for everybody, is everybody's safety and our, we're thinking about everybody in Southern California right now. So yeah, we're going to be talking about some award stuff, but really, I think cancel all the award show. Let's just not have an award season. If that means that everyone's safe, so be it.
Right.
Trade an Oscar season for people's safety, I would do that any day.
Yeah, it's so scary. I have a friend who lives in LA, and I was texting with him yesterday. Luckily, he's nowhere near where it's happening, but you can't stay away from the videos and the photos. And some videos I saw this morning of people that were on the freeway and had fled their homes, and the amount of tractor trailers just sideways on the side of the road because of the heavy winds and everything. I mean, it looks apocalyptic, right? It looks like it's from a movie. And I know sometimes, myself included, we're consuming so much media all the time that we can sometimes be desensitized to what we're actually seeing. And these are people's real lives and real homes and real, this is real. I saw a video this morning of a man who the firefighters had saved his cat, and he was beside himself. And it's just, it's just so scary. And you might feel like I do right now, kind of helpless. What can I do to help? And it's hard to try to figure out how can I help in these situations when these people are literally helpless. And it's just really sad. So it hopefully at least puts some things into perspective for some people, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And even just the air quality, even if it's not, your home, just the air quality, a lot of people are having health issues. So it's just really horrific. Well said, Erica. So like I said, that is definitely the priority, and we don't want to lose sight of that as we're talking about these things today. I do want to mention, so as I said, a lot of dates have shifted. Critics' Choice was originally supposed to be this Sunday. It's now going to be January 26th. BAFTA has canceled their annual tea party, haven't announced a follow-up date for that. The WGA nominations, Writers Guild of America nominations, were supposed to be today. Those will be postponed as well. The American Society of Cinematographers were supposed to announce today. As of this recording, they haven't announced yet. So I think that will be today. They just haven't happened yet. And then the biggest sort of shift is that Oscar voting was originally supposed to take place January 8th through the 12th. So it started yesterday. Voting is still going on, but they've extended it by 2 days. So it's going to end the 14th, and then nominations, instead of coming out January 17th, will be coming out on the 19th. So they've given people two extra days to get their votes in, rightfully so, with everything going on. Do you think, Erica, that sort of these shifts are going to affect, what we might see as the end result? Because, we've only gotten one televised ceremony before votes. And a lot of these sort of FYC events where people are going out and shaking hands and kissing babies and doing the Oscar campaigning stuff has been canceled. So I wonder, for a film for example, The Last Showgirl premiere got postponed. For a film as tiny as that, and for somebody on the bubble like Pamela Anderson, would that make a difference?
I mean, you have to think it could, right? I mean, we won't know until it all shakes out in the end, but you have to think it could, right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
times that does have a major effect on what we're actually seeing as like the, air quote end result, if you will. Um, I think it could. I think it could, right? I mean, we won't we won't know, but I think it definitely could affect it. What do
Yeah,
you
and
think?
I think I mean I do think it could be. I always wonder, I mean it's the same with any sort of election, like how much have people already made up their minds
Right.
and how much is it like last minute, this kind, but I would imagine obviously again if you're being affected by this horrible tragedy, you're not going to be watching. If you haven't watched a movie by now, this is not the time for you to watch it, right?
Right.
So like maybe it doesn't make a difference in that sense. And then maybe you'll go back to the things that you already seen. So then does that benefit maybe films like Dune Part 2 that came out earlier in the year?
Right. That's a good point.
Um
Yeah.
yeah. So
Or
we
like you
shall
said, like
see.
you just, default to things you've heard about, maybe you haven't
Yeah.
seen, but you've been hearing buzz about, whatever.
It's
So,
interesting. Speaking of voting patterns, there's something Eric Anderson of Awards Watch tweeted as we get into our SAG nominees that I'd like to point out, which he says SAG alphabetical bias is real. We should mention the SAG ballot is alphabetized by last name. So 17 of the 20 acting nominees from SAG came from A through M on the ballot.
really?
Yes. So clearly these voters are not really making an effort to
Right.
go to read all the way through their ballots. So like I wonder, are we going to see something similar at the Oscars where again people are under stress
Right.
and
And they're just like they want to get it done, so they're just, boop boop
yeah,
boop boop. Interesting.
yeah.
I hope
Uh,
that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case because listen, we got some interesting SAG nominees. I will say overall yesterday with DGA and SAG, not a great day for the Brutalist. The Brutalist really took a hit. Not getting into SAG Ensemble, not getting in Guy Pearce, not getting in. I don't think Felicity Jones was nominated. A great day for A Complete Unknown, getting in Monica Barbaro in supporting actress and SAG Ensemble, and then got in James Mangold at DGA. So that film is really sort of peaking at the right time.
Mhm.
And we'll get into it. So, Erica, I am going to just start by our first category, outstanding performance by an actor in a leading role. We have Adrian Brody from The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Daniel Craig for Queer, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Ralph Fiennes for Conclave.
Is this your dream 5 for the Oscars?
This is my 5, and I
Yeah.
think if you listen to our Golden Globes reactions, I said Sebastian Stan is
Yeah.
splitting his vote, and I think he's splitting his vote. I think this proves it.
Mhm.
Now, what I wonder though is again because the Golden Globes was our only televised award show, does the fact that he won there matter? Because spoiler alert for my Oscar predictions, I completely revamped my Oscar predictions on the website, and I do have Fernanda Torres getting that 5th Best Actress slot, just because I feel like that she has a momentum and a passion behind her that somebody like Angelina Jolie does not.
Right.
So that's my only kind of thing in the back of my mind. But I feel like this 5 has been solid. Daniel Craig has gotten in everywhere that he needed to get in.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason to doubt him at this point.
Right. Yeah, and I love that Coleman Domingo made it in there for you. I love that.
Yeah, but Sing Sing again took a huge hit
Mhm.
yesterday because I think there was a world where if Clarence Macklin had made it in, if it made it into SAG Ensemble, we could have made an argument that maybe there was a pathway for picture. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's looking like maybe picture, Coleman, and screenplay are going to be the only nominations for that film, which
Wait,
is
so you think picture will happen?
I think, I mean, there's 10, right? So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Sing Sing is probably at that 9 or 10 slot.
Okay.
But it's not the nomination total that it could have been, and that's always gonna hurt. Okay, so for best female actor in a leading role, we have Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carlos Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, and Demi Moore for The Substance.
I like this. I think this is a good, group, but I don't think this is our Oscar 5. Do you?
No, like I said, I think that 5th slot is going to Fernando Torres,
Yeah.
but that 5th slot is wide open. I mean, you could have Angelina Jolie make a surprise. You could have Nicole Kidman make a surprise.
Yep.
I mean, I just think with The Last Showgirl, they did a really good job of getting it in front of SAG voters. And again, if alphabet bias is a real thing and you see Anderson at the top of your list, that could have played a factor. But I just don't see that movie as so tiny. And I just don't, when you're talking about sort of the larger Academy, I just don't see how it makes it in front of enough eyeballs. Now, I will say, looking at the guilds is usually going to be the most predictive place to look. So, like, it's really noteworthy that she got into here, but I just don't think she makes it into the final 5.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to do supporting?
Yeah, I'll do supporting.
Yeah.
So outstanding performance by a male actor in a supporting role. We have Jonathan Bailey making it for Wicked for his role as Fiero. I think that's really exciting. We'll get to that though. Yura Borisov for Honora, Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, Edward Norton for Complete Unknown, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice.
This was so we no Denzel Washington, which is a surprise.
I'm surprised by that too.
Yeah. No Clarence Macklin, no Guy Pearce for The Brutalist. This was quite a few snubs in this category. I'm gonna chalk up the Jonathan Bailey thing to they just really love Jonathan Bailey. Jonathan Bailey's a triple nominee. He got nominated as part of the SAG ensemble for Wicked and Bridgerton. Bridgerton did really well.
Yeah.
So I think they just really love Jonathan Bailey. I'm not prepared to say that he's like a major contender that we should be taking seriously.
Yeah.
But this is where I've made some changes to my Oscar predictions. I put Jeremy Strong into my final 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I put The Apprentice in for hair and makeup. That makes sense to me as like a 2-package nomination for that film. Like I mentioned before, I just think there's a lot of love for Jeremy Strong kind of coming off Succession. I mean, we're talking about alphabet bias, but they got all the way to the S's to nominate Jeremy Strong. So that feels like a deliberate sort of name check to me. Again, I think it proves my point that Sebastian Stan is maybe splitting his own vote because otherwise he would be here.
Yeah.
So I feel like he might be that 5th slot.
Yeah, I mean, I think this, like, I agree with you with Jonathan Bailey. I think it's just like they love Jonathan Bailey. I don't think he's an actual contender. I think I said very early on with Wicked that I think he's fantastic. I just don't think it's enough of a meaty role for him. And it's really, we're looking really at Wicked as, yes, Ariana supporting and Cynthia is lead, but really they're 2 leads, right? Like that male role is not really even, enough of a like presence for me. Again, I think Jonathan Bailey's great. Loved him, loved his performance, but I just don't think it's like a real contender. But like you also said, this could be the most accurate for what we're actually going to see nominated. So I don't know. But I think the others, I mean, Edward Norton is an interesting one. Do you think he's definitely going to make it in for the Oscar?
I think that what we saw with SAG and DGA yesterday is that that movie is peaking at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
And in fact, like I don't have it in screenplay right now. I have Wicked in my 5th adapted screenplay slot, but I'm very tempted to switch. And let's do supporting actress because that also gave us some interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so supporting role for a female actor. We have Monica Barbaro. Why can't I say that? A complete unknown. Jamie Lee Curtis for The Last Showgirl. Danielle Deadweiler for The Piano Lesson. Ariana Grande for Wicked, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez.
So this is where, okay, so for my 5 that I'm predicting is Zoe, Ariana, Isabella Rossellini. A notable snub here. I was really surprised she missed, given the overall love for Conclave. I still have Felicity Jones, even though, again, she was snubbed. And then I have Margaret Qualley for The Substance.
I think that makes sense.
But then I feel like, again, a complete unknown is peaking at exactly the right time. And I've said before, I think Monica Barbaro is the best part of that entire movie. And if we're looking at a scenario where, it's so funny, we were laughing at the end of our last podcast of, I only had Timothée Chalamet, but I'm sticking with Timmy for now, given how well A Complete Unknown did at SAG. So I wonder, do you think she could sneak in and take that 5th slot?
I mean, like you said, it's peaking at the right time. It's definitely possible.
Because maybe somebody like Margaret Qualley still makes it. Maybe it's Felicity Jones that misses for The Brutalist. Somebody made an excellent point, which is like a lot of people who've gotten screeners for The Brutalist maybe are not even making it to the second half. And she doesn't become a presence until the second half.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So like if you're in a situation where for whatever reason you give up on it, then that means that she might be in a real dangerous position. And you and I have talked about Isabella Rossellini and Conclave. I mean, again, she's not in very much of it, but I'm confident in her because I feel like Conclave has proven to be a strong contender.
Yeah, and she's such a well-known name, but
and she's such a well-known name.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
She's more vulnerable than we previously thought. Because I thought at this point, I felt like, okay, she's a lock.
So you were shocked to not see her there.
I mean, I would think that an acting voting body. Now, keep in mind, SAG has merged with AFTRA. It's SAG-AFTRA, so it's not just actors anymore. That could be has given us some interesting nominations these past couple years. Because it's become more populist, like people will vote for them, And it's interesting. I don't think the Danielle Deadweiler for The Piano Lesson, even though she was like my top, winner in this category, if I were to be an Oscar voter, I don't think it's translating to the Oscars, but I'm really happy that she got a mention here. And then, listen, there's a world where Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, she's clearly beloved, right? So there's a world where she gets in over somebody like Felicity Jones, I think.
Right.
Or even a Margaret Qualley. Swap one Nepo baby in for another, I guess. People love her. Okay, so outstanding cast in a motion picture. We have A Complete Unknown, Anora, Conclave, Amelia Perez, and Wicked. Yeah, The Brutalist missing here, I think, was a huge shock. I had hope for Sing Sing coming through here. Didn't happen. I would say maybe these are our top 5 for picture at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's accurate. I actually love that Anora gets in here because it's really not that many well-known people in that cast. I feel like these are a lot of like new people. I do love the whole cast of Anora though. I thought the chemistry was great. I thought they were hilarious. So I love that gets in here. But yeah, I think the others are like shoo-in, right, for this award.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say a lot of people doubting Yura Borisov. I think him making it at SAG is proof that there's a lot of support behind him. And we mentioned sort of Nora not getting anything at the Golden Globes being a major blow, but I think this is a rebound here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then and then next we have outstanding action performance by stunt ensemble in a motion picture, Deadpool and Wolverine, Dune Part 2, The Fall Guy, Gladiator 2, and Wicked.
So, Erica, I'm curious about your thoughts on this because I am struggling in terms of how well Dune is going to do. I've had Dune in my Oscar predictions like for various below the line categories this whole time. But now Wicked is clearly going to be the leader in terms of like crafts categories. It's going to win costume, it's going to win production design. I'm curious, like, and then Nosferatu, I know we talked about it, we both seen it, but that feels like maybe that hasn't really captured. Like, I feel like if there's a late breaking movie that's doing really well, it's a complete unknown.
Yeah.
And not Nosferatu. So, like,
Yeah.
for something like costumes, I feel like they're kind of competing. Same thing with production design. Like, some of these below the line categories, I'm like, do I go with Nosferatu because it's newer? Do I go with Dune Part 2 because I feel like most people have seen that?
Yeah, I don't feel like Nosferatu is doing as well as everyone thought it would. At least I thought it was going to do bigger than, numbers and talk and things than it has. I think it's kind of deflated, I mean, I just don't think it's making as big of an impact as I think I originally thought it would. Yeah, it's crazy because it's like Dune Part 2 seems kind of more relevant than something that's been a newer release, because Dune Part 2 feels so long ago. Like, that doesn't even feel like this year, I don't know.
Yeah, like, let's talk about a category like best hair and makeup for a second. So I think The Substance is going to win. I think I've switched my prediction to Demi. She's officially my number one leading lady. And we've seen many times, like Brendan Fraser and The Whale, they like to pair their acting winner. Same thing with Jessica Chastain, hair and makeup. So that seems like a pair that makes sense to me. Then I have Wicked, Dune Part 2, A Different Man, and The Apprentice. Maybe I'm overestimating The Apprentice. Maybe I'm overestimating A Different Man. And some people have taken Dune Part 2 out of hair and makeup completely. I don't see how that's possible given that movie is so much hair and makeup.
Yeah.
And I put Nosferatu in 6th.
And you had Wicked in there, right?
And I have, Wicked is my number 2. I think Wicked is very safe. But, like, outside of Wicked, I feel like there's a lot of different combinations outside of Wicked and The Substance that could happen. For me with Nosferatu, like, yes, the design of Nosferatu is great. But, like, outside of that, are there very many memorable hair and makeup things? Not really, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's memorable or significant, honestly.
And they love biopics, which is why I think The Apprentice is notable here, kind of transforming two very well-known people into
Yeah.
And then production design. I also took Nosferatu out of production design just because I feel like Gladiator 2 would be a stronger. I mean, that Colosseum is gorgeous and kind of iconic. And then Conclave, like, they have been pushing the production design for Conclave this whole season, talking about rebuilding the Sistine Chapel, and clearly again Conclave has proven to be a major contender. So if we're looking at a top 5 best picture contender, I think that has a stronger shot.
I would agree. I would agree. It just has more momentum than some. Like, have we seen Nosferatu anywhere in the award? Like, I haven't seen it anywhere.
I mean, it did get in in the Costume Designers Guild.
Oh,
So
okay.
it'll be interesting when because I do have it in for cinematography. It'll be interesting when those cinematography guild nominations come out today, if it does well. Let's talk about the DGA nominations because that also gave us a major surprise.
Yeah.
I think.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I will. Well, if I can get my computer to scroll.
I have it up if you.
Okay, yeah, you can go ahead and read our 5 nominees there.
Okay, so we have Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, Sean Baker for Nora, Edward Berger for Conclave, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, and James Mangold for Complete Unknown. So yeah, go ahead. The big misses there. What do you think?
No Denis Villeneuve, no John M. Chu. Now, statistically, DGA has very rarely matches up with the Oscar 5.
Yeah.
Usually it's 3 for 5, usually like 3 for 5 or 4 for 5. We don't usually get a solid matchup. So I think James Mangold is the one that misses here at the Oscars.
Yeah.
My question is, who then takes the 5th slot? I have Coralie Farge from The Substance. I think that movie is gonna do really well. I think people really respect her artistic vision. But do you think that Wicked, clearly there's a lot of love for Wicked, do you think John M. Chu could maybe make it in?
I do. I just feel like he's been more of a presence with all of the campaigning. I feel like he's so well known as the director of Wicked. I feel like he has truly made a name for himself. I just feel like he's more in the public eye, like, out there. I don't know. And I think also when you think about it, think about how long Wicked has been coming along. Like, we talked about it. I've been waiting for this for years with a lot of other people as well. So I also think for a long time, Wicked was one of those, like, how are they going to do this? How is this going to happen? And I think he did it, right? And I think that has something to say for, like, the way directors are looked at in for, like, things like this. I don't know. Maybe I could be, making it a bigger thing than it is, but I just think he's more of a name, if that makes sense.
I think I think he's in a very strong position. I think I'm going to stick with Coralie for now, but I think he's in a very strong position. I would argue that if one of our 4, solid, they've been everywhere contenders were to miss, I think Sean Baker is probably the most vulnerable because people maybe see him as more of a writer than a director. So if there's like a surprise in the best director category come the 19th, that may be what it is. I wanted to read off the directors in the first, so they have like a first time director category at the DGA. So we have Payal Kapadia for All We Imagine Is Light, Megan Park for My Old Ass, Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys. This last name is Norwegian, I'm so sorry, but the director of Armand, and Sean Wang for Dee Dee. Now, there's a couple of interesting things here for me. One is no Malcolm Washington for The Piano Lesson, which shows me that even though Danielle Deadweiler did make it in at SAG, there's just not that much support for that movie because I would have felt like he was a shoo-in for this category,
Right.
making it in. I think All We Imagine Is Light has been showing up everywhere.
Yeah.
There is so much passion for that movie. So I would even say if we're in for a surprise come Oscar morning, she makes it in.
Yeah,
somehow,
that would be really exciting.
Maybe it's John M. Chu and Payal, maybe it's Coralie and Payal. Or maybe she makes it in for Best Original Screenplay. I just feel like there's so much passion behind that movie.
Right. No, I agree. I feel like I've seen it that's one that I feel like has been popping up everywhere it can, you know?
Yeah. And another big change I should mention for my Oscar predictions is I ended up taking out Nickel Boys again and replacing it with oh my gosh, with A Real Pain, just because I feel like if we're looking at a world where Kieran Culkin is really going to win Best Supporting Actor, A Real Pain just makes more sense for that
Right.
10th Best Picture slot.
Right.
But this again proves that there's love for Nickel Boys. So is Nickel Boys just going to be a screenplay type of just a one? Does it get into cinematography? Like Nickel Boys is one of those big question marks. I think for me, question marks would be how well does Nickel Boys do? How well does Nosferatu do? Are we in a world where A Complete Unknown is peaking really, really late and you get in Monica Barbaro, you get in director, you get in screenplay? The Apprentice. It could go either way. Like I said, I have it for both hair and makeup and supporting actor. I could get none of those. How well is Dune gonna do in crafts? I think it's winning visual effects. I don't really doubt that. But is it
Right.
gonna be a contender anywhere else? Challengers. If we're talking about films that from earlier in the year that people may come back to, Challengers could be a big one. We could see it in I think we're going to see it in score. I have it predicted there. But we
Yeah.
could see it in song. We could see it in editing. So that's going to be another one where I'm curious.
I think those are like the only places we see it, if anything. I think it definitely makes score. I still have it winning for score, but otherwise, like I don't really see it happening anywhere else.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned last episode, we have 11 contenders for 10 Best Picture slots. I think that Nickel Boys are a real pain, are kind of on the cusp. Potentially even something like Sing Sing, as much as I hate to say it, could be on the cusp. Whereas something like A Complete Unknown, I think, is very safely in at the moment. Dune Part 2, I think usually there's going to be one sort of blockbuster in that group of 10, so
Yeah.
that feels safe as that
Yep.
slot for me. But, like, does All We Imagine Is Light surprise? Like, if you're on a
Wow.
if you're ranking, right, and you really love this movie, you're going to put it at the top. So, like, that could be a shocker come the 19th. What else sort of stood out to you in terms of DGA and SAG? And did anything shift for you in terms of like what you were thinking might happen in terms of the Oscars, like looking at these lists?
Well, I think I'm kind of surprised for A Complete Unknown for director, just because, again, still haven't seen it yet. Need to see it as soon as possible. But from what I've heard, it just sounds like it's kind of a straightforward kind of film. So I feel like a lot of times in that director slot, it's something that's like, you know, something different, something like impactful in a way that's like, oh, they did something really bold here. They did something, different. I don't know. So I think I'm just surprised to see that there, because it seems like way too safe of a pick for director.
Yeah, that's
I
why
feel
I
like,
think,
yeah,
to your point, I think that's why somebody like John M. Chu or Farge is a better pick for that fifth slot, because they
right,
are doing something more artistic.
right.
I will say another big change that I made to my Oscar predictions is to move Conclave into my Best Picture winner slot over
Oh,
Anora. I just feel like we've seen so much support for Conclave, and it's like steady support, whereas
yeah.
Anora is like up down. So like if something seems like Conclave at this point just seems like a safer bet. I think again the
You're
Brutalist
right.
missing at SAG is a huge miss to me, because like that is a great ensemble. It really is. And the fact that they only got in Adrian Brody is very odd, because the supporting characters actually play a huge role in the progression of that story. Um So I don't know if that's just like enough people didn't see it, enough people didn't watch it to the end, just didn't want to turn it on. So like that makes me think that like the Brutalist is more vulnerable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's a fantastic point that you make, that the support we've seen for Conclave has been consistent and steady. Where I do agree with you. I think Anora has been up and down, up and down. Wow, Conclave winning picture. It could I could see it. I could see it. It could happen.
Yeah, and then another question mark for me is Gladiator 2. Again,
Yeah.
that's another one where in my crafts predictions, I keep kind of taking it in and out, taking it in and out. I don't know what to do. I feel like that movie kind of came and went, but there's
Yeah.
so many beloved people, like the costume designer, the production design. There's so many beloved people that have worked on it,
Right.
and if we're thinking of there's like a slot open in best supporting actor and we're thinking like, is it going to be Jeremy Strong, is it going to be Clarence Macklin, Denzel Washington just seems like an easy kind of person for people to put in there,
Yeah,
particularly.
I'm
Yeah,
very surprised he missed it, SAG, but I don't know if I'm completely counting him out, you know?
yeah. And I have to bring up Stanley Tucci. Like, do you think if
Yeah.
Conclave is as beloved as it seems, excuse
Bless
me, and
you.
we're talking about, again, people who maybe are not in a position to maybe give their ballots as much thought as they would like to or whatever, would you just be like, oh, I really liked Conclave and I'm gonna vote for Stanley Tucci?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening too, for sure. He's such a well-known name and a beloved person. I could see that happening, and I think he's great in Conclave. Like, loved him in Conclave.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, but I think and I said, I think the support for A Complete Unknown has made me more confident that maybe Timmy Chalamet does have a path forward. And yeah, I'm really curious about how some of these movies are going to do. Erica, like I said, has your thought process sort of shifted on anything? Do you have any last minute thoughts on the barrage of nominations that we got yesterday?
obviously, I love how well Wicked did here, with 5 nominations. I think that's huge for Wicked. I love to see it. I hope that, influences, all the places it should. Because I think I felt kind of down a little bit after the Globes with Wicked only getting the box office achievement. I mean, obviously, I'm happy that it got that, but I think I felt a little down about it, like, oh, this is kind of taking the same path as like Barbie, maybe, like I was just kind of in that mindset. But I think it's on the up and up again, hopefully. I don't know, maybe I'm just blindly optimistic, but I love that it has the most nominations here. So that's exciting for me.
I think there is still absolutely a path for Wicked to win Best Picture. Like if it wins Best Ensemble at SAG, I think that's gonna, be very telling. I think if John M. Chu gets in, that's gonna be very like telling. It could just be a crafts thing because, like I said, we know that there's a part 2 coming, and sometimes that will keep them from actually voting for something.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm curious, Erica. And maybe this is conventional wisdom or not. I much prefer the first half of Wicked to the second half.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think a lot of people feel that same way. I think
Yeah.
early on about Wicked, we talked, like, one of my friends was like, "Oh, this movie's only the first half. Like, that's all they need to see. That's the best part." But I think I'm really excited to see what they do with the second half, because I think we talked about this in the stage performance of Wicked. The second half feels a little rushed. It feels
Mm.
like they have to really quickly get to those points to be like, okay, this is what happens here. This is what happens here. And I think the film is going to have more time to unravel those things in the film. I think they're going to take more time with it. I think the second half of the film is going to be really special. I think the first half of the film and the stage production is so well known. It seems like that's what Wicked is. I think this second half is gonna knock our socks off. I think they're really
Mm.
gonna. I think they're really going to develop it and like I said, take its time with it, where I feel like the stage play just doesn't allow. Again, we talk about the medium of film, and I think the medium of film just allows for more storytelling in this aspect. And I think it's going to really take its time with it and, give us a little more than we get in the stage production that we long for with the second act. So I'm super excited. I can't wait.
Do you think that I should keep Wicked in my best adapted screenplay predictions?
I do. I think it's showing up as much as it did at SAG. I think the momentum is still there for it. I think like I said, I felt a little down after the Globes, but I think if nothing else, it's proven that it's still a contender for sure.
Yeah, I think, and I've mentioned this, I think it just suffers from that, like, people know they're gonna have another chance to award it next year, so maybe they're, like, holding off. Same thing, because, like, we know there's gonna be another Denis Villeneuve Dune property coming, and so I think he should be in the Director 5 this year, but he won't be. I think that wraps it up for our SAG and DGA conversation. Erica, what do you think?
I'm excited again. I know we've talked a lot about just, we're in the midst of award season again with all of the incredible tragedy that's going on in LA. Things are changing unexpectedly, but I still think, it's an exciting time of year. I love this time of year for award season. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out. And where we go from here. I'm just excited to see what happens.
I agree. I think it's been an interesting season. I think the fact that, again, it's still wide open. Because even after, like, Golden Globes, you're like, okay, well, Anora, like, dipped a little bit. And then I think it very much rebounded with both SAG and DGA. So I'm like, okay, we can't count that movie out. And there's just so many interesting narratives. You have Demi Moore with a comeback narrative, but you also have Pamela Anderson with a similar narrative. So, like, what if they both make it into Best Actress? Like, that would be so cool. And then Amelia Perez, which I feel like the industry loves it and everyone else does not. So is that going to matter come nominations morning? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, yeah, Amelia Perez. I still have such mixed feelings. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's a wrap for us. Everyone stay safe out there. If you're in Southern California, we're thinking of you. Hopefully, if nothing else, this could just be a distraction, or something to take your mind off that's what I do whenever there's like a hurricane. I'm always just save up my podcast and listen to my podcast. It's really terrifying. And we'd love feedback. Am I underestimating Nosferatu? Am I overestimating Dune? Like I said, I updated my predictions. Am I crazy for thinking Conclave has a genuine path to picture? Take a look at those predictions on In Session Film. Take a look at all of the articles. Final Oscar predictions are also coming out from the entire Chasing the Gold team. There's still top 10 lists coming out. So content is consistently being churned out by some of the best writers in the game. Please check it out. And we will be back to there's going to be a lot of developments in the coming days. So we'll be back to kind of dig into it all.
Yeah. Like Shadan said, stay safe. We're thinking of everyone. And we'll be back soon to discuss more. So we'll look forward to seeing everyone then.
And as always, rate and review us and share with friends, encourage people to listen. And we will see you on the next one.
Yay.